Ever thought about trading your daily routine for a life by the ocean, where the sunsets light up the sky and the city hums with a mix of old Mexico and modern comfort? Puerto Vallarta isn't just a vacation spot. It's a full-fledged community with layers you only understand once you've lived here a while. From its lively neighborhoods to its steady growth in 2025, the city has evolved into one of Mexico's most livable coastal towns. Let's talk about what it's really like to live here day to day. The good, the surprising, and what's changing this year. First up, let's dive into the pros of living in Puerto Vallarta in 2025. The first thing everyone notices? The cost of living still stretches a lot farther than in most North American cities. According to 2025 data, a single person's average monthly expenses, excluding rent, run around 15,000 pesos, or about $800. You can eat out regularly, get fresh local produce at the markets, and still spend less than you would in a major U.S. city. Even rent, though creeping up in tourist zones, remains modest if you look just outside the center. Neighborhoods like Fluvio offer modern apartments within walking distance of cafes and local taquerias, without the beachfront price tag. If you are moving here, my tip is to visit in person before signing anything. Prices swing wildly between high season and summer months, and you'll get better deals once you've met a few local agents in person. Second, Puerto Vallarta's private healthcare scene is top-notch for a city its size. You've got modern hospitals like CMQ and Hoya with English-speaking specialists, 24-hour emergency care, and affordable out-of-pocket costs compared to what many people pay up north. A general doctor visit might cost you 500 pesos, around $30, and the care is quick and personal. In 2025, several clinics expanded or opened new branches to meet growing demand from expats and retirees who've chosen to live here long-term. The one thing most locals will tell you is, get to know a trusted local doctor early. It makes everything smoother, especially when navigating prescriptions or lab work. Next, there's the city's rhythm and walkability. The downtown core and romantic zone are vibrant, social, and compact enough that you can run most of your errands on foot. There's something freeing about walking along the Malecon in the evening, music drifting from restaurants, locals out for a stroll, and the Pacific shimmering under the streetlights. In these areas, you barely need a car, but in newer developments like Fluvio, you'll want to hop on the local bus system or grab a colectivo for day-to-day trips. Buses cost around 10 pesos, less than $1, and they're reliable enough for short commutes. Just keep in mind, if you're coming from somewhere where public transit runs on strict schedules, here it's more of a go-with-the-flow experience. Now let's talk about culture and entertainment, because Puerto Vallarta punches well above its weight. Between the local art walks, live music in cafes, and theater nights at venues like Act 2 PV, there's no shortage of creativity. In 2025, the city saw a big bump in international recognition, snagging top rankings in several travel awards for food and nightlife. You'll find traditional markets tucked beside sushi bars, jazz nights next to taco stands, and art galleries that open late just because the energy downtown doesn't quit. Sundays are for locals, families on the Malecon, street food vendors, and spontaneous fireworks near the pier. It's the kind of community energy that makes the city feel alive every day of the week. Then there's the ocean, of course. Living here means waking up to the sound of waves and having year-round access to some of the most beautiful coastal scenery in Mexico. You can snorkel off Los Arcos, take a morning hike up to Mirador de la Cruz for panoramic views, or catch a water taxi to Yalapa for the day. The dry season, from November through May, is perfect. Sunny skies, calm seas, and temperatures that hover in the mid-80s Fahrenheit. Yes, summers are hot and humid, but that's when you see the lush green hills come alive, and when locals reclaim the beaches as tourists thin out. Just plan ahead for hurricane season between June and October. Most residents keep a simple emergency kit ready and follow local alerts closely. One more big positive this year: growth that feels sustainable. Puerto Vallarta's 2025 development boom is more selective. New eco-friendly resorts and infrastructure improvements are being built with sustainability in mind. You can see solar panels on rooftops in new condos, composting bins at cafes, and a citywide push to clean up beaches through local volunteer drives. It's not perfect, but there's a noticeable shift toward protecting what makes Vallarta special in the first place: its natural beauty. For anyone who values ocean access but doesn't want to see it spoiled by overdevelopment, that's encouraging. What ties all these pros together is quality of life. Puerto Vallarta offers a balance of affordability, comfort, and connection that's hard to find elsewhere. You can have a slower pace without feeling isolated, modern conveniences without losing that small-town friendliness, and access to both nature and nightlife within minutes of each other. It's the kind of place where your barista remembers your order, your neighbors stop to chat, and the sunsets really do feel cinematic. Of course, like anywhere, it's not all paradise. For every postcard view, there are real challenges, things people rarely mention when they talk about moving here. So let's shift gears and talk about the other side of the story: the cons of living in Puerto Vallarta. The parts that don't always make it into travel blogs but matter if you're planning to stay for the long run. We've covered the dream. Now, let's get into the fine print. Puerto Vallarta is an incredible place to live, but it's not without its daily challenges. Most people who stay here long-term learn how to adapt, but knowing what to expect makes all the difference. One of the biggest realities is safety. Not so much in the tourist zones, but across the wider Jalisco region. Puerto Vallarta itself remains one of the safer coastal cities in Mexico. But the headlines from the state can sound rough. Organized crime incidents in rural areas, travel advisories reminding people to stay cautious. In 2025, those advisories haven't gone away. The truth is, in daily life, you rarely feel unsafe in central neighborhoods like the Romantic Zone or Marina Vallarta. Police patrols are consistent, and tourism keeps these areas well protected. The trick is simply to stay street smart. Avoid isolated roads at night, use official taxis or ride shares, and pay attention to local news. Once you learn which neighborhoods to stick to, you navigate the city with confidence. Another issue you start to notice after living here a while is the job market. Puerto Vallarta thrives on tourism and service work. Great for hospitality, restaurants, and real estate, but limited for professional careers outside those fields. In 2025, Jalisco's unemployment rate stayed impressively low, around 1.7% early in the year, but that number doesn't reflect how many people rely on seasonal or informal work. The wages just don't stretch far unless your income comes from outside Mexico or from your own business. Many locals supplement by freelancing or running side hustles, and that's the best solution here. Create multiple income streams, or build a career that isn't tied to the local job market. Once you do, Puerto Vallarta becomes much more sustainable. Then there's housing. It's a mixed picture in 2025. The good news: more condos and apartments are being built, which has increased inventory. The bad news: prices in high-demand zones like Centro and the Romantic Zone are still steep, especially in winter. You'll see a two-bedroom condo rent for 25,000 pesos in December, then drop to 17,000 by August. The key is timing. Most locals sign leases in the summer when demand dips and landlords are more flexible. Another workaround? Check local Facebook groups or talk directly with property managers before listing season begins. Those personal connections can save you a small fortune. Next, let's talk about the weather. The dry season from November through May is flawless. But summers are brutally hot and humid, with regular afternoon downpours and hurricane warnings from June through October. In 2025, the Pacific Coast saw several strong tropical systems pass close enough to cause flooding and short power cuts in some neighborhoods. The good news? Locals are prepared. You learn to close up windows when the afternoon clouds build, keep your electronics on surge protectors, and stock drinking water just in case. Air conditioning is expensive, so ceiling fans and dehumidifiers become your best friends. Once you adjust your rhythm, early morning errands, indoor afternoons, it's completely manageable. Another challenge that surprises people is the reliability of public services. Garbage pickup, water pressure, and government offices don't always run on schedule. And while private health care is excellent, public clinics can involve long wait times or limited availability. It's not a deal breaker, but it takes patience. The workaround is to stay proactive. Keep your documents up to date, pay utilities online when possible, and build relationships with local service providers. A friendly buenos dias to the garbage crew or maintenance staff goes a long way here. It's one of those places where community relationships make bureaucracy easier to navigate. Then there's the reality of the cost gap for imported goods. Living costs for food and rent might be lower, but certain products, electronics, specialty groceries, can cost 30 to 40% more than back home. In 2025, that's still true. Anything imported or branded tends to carry a hefty markup. The local solution is simple. Adapt your habits. Shop at local markets, buy Mexican brands, and use delivery services like Mercado Libre for better online prices. Most long-term residents find they don't miss much once they settle into local routines. Finally, let's talk about the noise and construction. Puerto Vallarta is booming again, with new resorts, condos, and restaurants opening up along the coast. Great for the economy, not so great if you live near an active work site. Morning jackhammers, delivery trucks, and street music are all part of daily life. The fix is all about location. If you want peace and quiet, look a few blocks inland from the main tourist drag. Or pick neighborhoods like Amapas or Conchas Chinas that sit slightly above the bustle. You'll trade convenience for calm, but your mornings will be a lot quieter. Once you learn the local rhythm, most of these issues fade into the background. You start to focus on what drew you here in the first place. The friendliness, the slower pace, and the sense that life can be rich without being complicated. So, what's the verdict? Let's break it down. We've looked at the beauty and the bumps, the sunsets and the storm clouds. Next, we'll weigh how Puerto Vallarta stacks up overall, who it suits best, what kind of life it really offers, and whether the pros truly outweigh the cons. The biggest pros are the kind you actually feel every day. The sunsets that turn the sky gold, the friendliness that doesn't feel forced, and the way nature, beaches, jungle, and mountains all wrap around the city like it's protecting it. The downsides, you'll notice them too. Humidity that can drain your energy, a growing number of tourists that make high season feel more like a festival than a town, and infrastructure that sometimes struggles to keep up with the city's popularity. Compared to Cabo San Lucas, Puerto Vallarta feels far more local and less resort-gated. Cabo's dry desert landscape has that polished, high-end feel, lots of expat enclaves and all-inclusive resorts, but it can also feel a little isolated from real Mexico. Vallarta, on the other hand, mixes everyday life right into the tourist zones. It's more humid, more walkable, and a little more chaotic, but also more soulful. Now, if you look at it next to Playa del Carmen, Playa's flat and easier to navigate. It also has newer infrastructure, but it can feel transient, like everyone's just passing through. Vallarta, on the other hand, has a stronger sense of permanence. There's a creative, bohemian energy here that you don't always find on the Caribbean side. The vibe is warmer, both literally and emotionally. But when hurricane season hits, you'll feel every bit of that Pacific weather. So, who actually thrives here? This city works beautifully if you like a balance between relaxation and community. If you're the kind of person who enjoys chatting with your barista, saying hi to the same beach vendor each morning, and doesn't mind that life slows down when the afternoon heat hits, you'll love it. If you need efficiency, predictable internet, and cooler weather, you might find Vallarta frustrating. It's a place that rewards patience, adaptability, and appreciation for atmosphere over order. You trade convenience for character, and it's a trade most people don't regret once they settle into the rhythm. At the end of the day, the charm of Puerto Vallarta isn't just its ocean views, it's that it feels alive. It's not curated to perfection, it's textured, loud, human. The same traits that might drive you crazy in your first month, like spontaneous street parades or roosters crowing before dawn, are often what make people fall in love with it later. So if you're someone who values beauty, you can feel, not just photograph, Vallarta will stick with you. But if you need a place that runs on punctuality and routine, this might not be your best match. Thanks for watching. If you've lived or spent time in Puerto Vallarta, drop your take in the comments. What did you love most, and what took the longest to adjust to? Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive city breakdowns.